Now, one of the biggest mysteries that the Clone Wars animated series left us with, and that has been carried into the Bad Batch series, is just how do the inhibitor chips in the clones' heads actually work? I mean, they seem to basically compel all clones, if not outright control them, to follow one specific order, that being to kill any and all Jedi on sight for being traitors. But is it really just that one order, or could it be just one of many orders programmed into them, into the chips, that the clones could potentially be made to carry out? After all, in Legends, there were actually 150 such orders that all clones had memorized, and I do mean memorized, they literally knew about them, and there were no chips in their heads in Legends. In fact, these, what you might call contingency orders that covered all sorts of circumstances or scenarios, including 66, that, as you know, saw the Jedi branded as traitors to be executed, as well as, say, Order 65, which was to order the removal of the Supreme Chancellor from power, even killing him if need be. Anyway, these orders were all pretty much common knowledge. The Jedi knew about them and just never imagined that they'd either become traitors to the Republic, obviously they never thought they'd betray the Republic, or that it would somehow be used against them nefariously. Plus, the Order was actually more about stopping perhaps a single rogue Jedi, not so much about wiping out the whole Jedi Order. Another curious question that goes along with all this then is, do the orders have to come from Palpatine himself, or did Order 66 have to come from Palpatine? Would it have activated the chips if some other person had accidentally or randomly spoken those words together? If someone else had said execute Order 66 in front of a or several clones. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be the case, that it has to be Palpatine or maybe someone else with authority giving the orders or nothing would happen. Again, going back to Legends, one of the reasons most, though not all, clones carried out Order 66 in the first place and without a second thought is because they were basically programmed, as mentioned in Attack of the Clones, to carry out any order without question. And so with Palpatine being the highest authority in the Republic, his order would always supersede any other. They would follow his order above anyone else's, even those of their Jedi generals. And thus the clones simply followed his order as they were made to do, no chip required, which is, as I've discussed before, how I think Lucas originally intended it to work. Nice and simple, no chips. Their brains are just, you could say, hardwired to follow orders, especially from a superior, or the superior in this case.
They are totally obedient, taking any order without question. We modified their genetic structure to make them less independent than the original host.
Or at least that's how it worked until the Clone Wars animated series showed just how not only sort of independent the clones were becoming and how loyal they were to their Jedi generals, but also the genuine friendship they had formed between them. And so he, George Lucas, probably felt a further explanation was needed to explain their quick and thoughtless betrayal of the Jedi, and thus he came up with and introduced the inhibitor chips. But getting back to the sort of original question now, are there potentially more orders programmed into the chips that the clones can be made to follow? Well, I think one would have to imagine the answer to that is yes. I mean, if you can program their minds with a chip and override their thinking at any point and make them obey any order without question by simply issuing a verbal command, why stop at just one? Heck, just calling it Order 66 implies that's either Palpatine's favorite number, or just a random number they came up with, or, like in Legends, could it be it's just the 66th order out of maybe 100 or so orders altogether? Which makes you ask, what could some of the other orders potentially be, especially considering, unlike in Legends, they're not common knowledge here, or known to pretty much everyone, and they don't have to kind of fool the Jedi into believing they're meant to cover a wide array of potential situations, one of which being a Jedi going rogue. Could there even be amongst these other orders one that makes the clones turn on each other, or maybe even on themselves, if you know what I mean, or that the chips can somehow basically shut down their brains? And that the reason why the only clones we see or have seen years later, years and years after Order 66, are clones that had their chips removed, like Rex, Wolf, and Gregor, and that one random clone we see in Kenobi, could they all have been eliminated using the chips somehow? And though that sounds extremely dark, probably way, way too dark for the Bad Batch, for a show deemed for kids, it would, for better or worse, be about as tragic of an ending for the clones as one could imagine. It'd also be about the quickest and easiest way, if you're the Empire, to try and put down any sort of clone rebellion, which seems like something that is very much being set up right now in the Bad Batch. It would also be a good way to stop deserting or discharged clones from joining the rebellion en masse, especially if they learn the truth or come to see the truth of the Empire and that they were all basically used as pawns to help them take over the galaxy. I mean, it is kind of strange that we see virtually no clones in the rebellion later on, with Rex being the only known exception. And though sure, there could be many other explanations for none of the hundreds of thousands of surviving clones joining the rebellion, including the very obvious one that George Lucas didn't have the whole story of the Clone Wars mapped out when he made the original trilogy. Anyway, though, there's plenty of explanations for it, including something as kind of simple as the rebels, didn't know if the clones could even be trusted, especially if they never learn about the chips, though you'd think they would learn about them from someone like Rex. Or even if they do know about them, which I think is likely at that point, that it would be quite the process to remove all of these chips from the heads of a rapidly aging army. Keeping in mind that, for example, Rex was only in, his mid to late 20s when we see him in Rebels, yet he looked and no doubt felt like much older than that. Either way, with there being virtually no clones around in the time of the original trilogy or in the rebellion at that time, we're clearly headed for a dark and tragic ending for the clones, one we're likely going to see at some point in the Bad Batch series. And I think the only question is, again, considering this is an animated show on Disney Plus that is intended for a younger audience, just how dark and tragic will this end up being? Well, that's all I got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think will ultimately happen to the clones. Is there a dark fate before them? Or is there another explanation for what happens to all of them, why we don't really see many during the time period of the original trilogy? Whatever the case may be, leave your comments below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.